The NBA trade deadline is officially over, and one of the biggest moves to come out of this is the fact that Jimmy Butler will be traded away from the Miami Heat and to the Golden State Warriors. And if you're wondering what it took for this deal to become a reality, well, it was about as difficult as you would expect, because the deal included 5 different teams, with one of those teams, of course, being the Warriors, who will not only be receiving Jimmy Butler, but they will also be getting 2 second-round picks, along with cash considerations from the Miami Heat. And what helped this deal go through was the fact that the Warriors were willing to give Jimmy Butler a 2-year extension worth $121 million. And you can ignore what the headlines say. The real reason Jimmy Butler wanted out from the Miami Heat was the fact that the organization, along with Pat Riley, were unwilling to negotiate a contract extension until the other one had expired, just because Jimmy Butler was getting up there in age, and truthfully, his play had declined. However, the Warriors didn't have a problem with this because they are clearly in win-now mode. Their timeline for success is when Steph Curry either falls off or decides to retire. So of course, with Steph Curry getting up there in age by the day, they decided to go out and make a desperation move to save the season and trade for a guy like Jimmy Butler, who is pretty old at this point, but he has been proven to be clutch in the playoffs, and one of the Warriors' biggest weaknesses this season is the fact that they are terrible in clutch time minutes. Now currently they sit around 500, but with the addition of Jimmy Butler, they hope to improve. They're the 11th seed, maybe, just maybe, they sneak out of the play-in and into the playoffs, but realistically speaking, with where the Warriors are at now, even with the addition of Jimmy Butler, you're probably looking at the 7th or 8th seed at best for Golden State. And yet, if Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry are on a team, you can't count them out of any playoff series. So as long as they're able to survive the play-in, who knows, maybe they're able to knock out one of these inexperienced top of the Western Conference teams like a Houston Rockets, Memphis Grizzlies, or Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, as for the rest of this deal, well, the Miami Heat will be receiving Andrew Wiggins, a 2025 first-round pick, along with Kyle Anderson and Davion Mitchell from the Toronto Raptors. Well, it's just a whole lot of nothingness, because you got Dennis Schroeder, who went from the Warriors to the Utah Jazz, but would later be traded to the Detroit Pistons. Then you got Lindy Waters III going from the Warriors to Detroit, Josh Richardson going from the Heat to Detroit, PJ Tucker going from Utah to the Raptors, and that about sums up the Jimmy Butler trade. Now, who do I believe won this trade? Well, this season, I do think that the Warriors will perform better than the Miami Heat for the rest of it, but long term, it's obviously the Miami Heat, who were somehow able to get a competent star in return for Jimmy Butler, because truthfully, everybody around the league knew that Jimmy Butler wanted out, so that of course is going to hurt his value on the trade market. And it's kind of insane to me that they were still able to go out and get a talent like Andrew Wiggins along with a 2025 first-round pick. Now, when it comes to Andrew Wiggins' play on the court for the Miami Heat, I don't really know how that's going to go. I don't think anybody can tell you how Andrew Wiggins is going to play for the Heat, because he is a bit of a mystery. Over the past few seasons, Andrew Wiggins has had a lot going on in his life behind the scenes that we as the public just aren't as privy to. But I'll tell you right now, the Warriors wouldn't have won that 2022 NBA championship if Andrew Wiggins wasn't on the team. That year he was an all-star, and he was arguably one of, if not the best players on the Warriors during their championship run. And after that championship run, Andrew Wiggins has been very hit or miss. However, this season he's gotten out an average 17.6 points, 4.6 rebounds, 2.3 assists, while shooting 44% from the field and nearly 38% from the three-point line. He's playing much better than he was last year, and he has played in 43 games for the Warriors, so it's not like he's out there missing a whole lot of time for the team. Now, will Andrew Wiggins be the face of the Miami Heat? Of course not. Obviously, Tyler Herro is going to be the new face of the Heat. He was just named to the All-Star team this year, which I think was quite a surprise. I mean, not even his co-star Bam Adebayo got the nod, but to be fair, the Miami Heat have been very mid, so the fact that even one of them is an All-Star, kind of shocking there. But someone has needed to step up and keep the Miami Heat afloat in Jimmy Butler's absence, and the man to do so is Tyler Herro, who's having a career high in just about every major statistical category. Points per night, he's got 23.9, which is much higher than any of his previous seasons in the NBA. And as for his rebounds and assists, those both sit at about 5.5 per game. And we haven't even gotten to his efficiency, which is much higher, especially from the field, where he is now shooting 47%. And from the three-point line, he still maintained a high three-point percentage. He's got 39% on the season. We're looking at a guy who's nearly averaging 50, 40, 90. And so to have those kinds of numbers and play the way that he has, I feel as though Tyler Herro deserves his flowers in a time of uncertainty for the Miami Heat. And if we take a step back and look at this roster in its entirety, the team has 3 all-star caliber players, all under the age of 30. Andrew Wiggins has gotten an all-star, Bam Adebayo has a few of those, and now Tyler Herro is an all-star. So in the end, I do think that the Miami Heat walked away like bandits from the Jimmy Butler saga. And we'll talk more about Jimmy Butler and the Warriors side of things in a second, but for right now, I just wanted to remind you guys to slow down, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 10,000. It would be greatly appreciated if you subscribe, so please subscribe. Alright, now let's get back to talking about Jimmy Butler here. Now, the interesting thing about Jimmy Butler is that he was always going to leave the Miami Heat, and it's because of one man, Pat Riley. Jimmy Butler hated Pat Riley to his core. In fact, I think it was more Pat Riley's fault than anybody as to why Jimmy Butler isn't on the team anymore. And it just came out recently, Pat Riley really tried to connect with him on an emotional level, a human level. The story goes that Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler had a conversation. Pat Riley began to tear up a little bit as he talked about what it was like when he lost his father, because recently Jimmy Butler's father passed away. However, when Jimmy Butler saw those tears come from Pat Riley, it scared him. It meant that he wanted to get out even more because he didn't feel comfortable in Miami anymore. And do I think that Jimmy Butler could have handled the whole situation much better? Of course. I think that he was dramatic, a diva, and it really put a bad taste in the rest of the owner's mouth around the league that their superstar could act like Jimmy Butler. He might have just ruined the next CBA agreement, who knows? But what I do know is that Jimmy Butler will be playing basketball in Golden State for the foreseeable future. Now, in the 25 games that Jimmy Butler suited up in with the Miami Heat this season, he went out and averaged 17 points, 5.2 assists, 4.8 rebounds, and shot a very high 54% from the field while averaging about 36% from the three. But honestly, I would take these numbers with a grain of salt, because for a majority of these games, Jimmy Butler was either playing injured or he just wasn't trying. And sure, Jimmy Butler will tell you otherwise. He will 100% undoubtedly tell you that he tried in every game that he's ever played in. But honestly, even the Heat organization was able to find enough evidence to suspend Jimmy Butler because he wasn't giving his full effort. Anyway, this new Golden State lineup looks pretty exciting. You got Steph Curry at the 1, you got Buddy Hield at the 2, Jimmy Butler at small forward, Draymond Green at power forward, and Trayce Jackson-Davis at the center. And honestly, this team looks pretty unstoppable if it was 5 years ago. But Draymond Green has gotten up there in age. If you've watched any of the Golden State Warriors games recently, Draymond Green isn't really his old self. Of course, Steph Curry is fantastic and will always be amazing for the Warriors. He is their star. He is the face of the franchise. He's the guy you think of when somebody says Warriors, or hell, even Golden State. Not even those two words have to be together for you to connect the dots and just say Steph Curry. He's got one of the most bought jerseys in the game of basketball, so of course, Steph Curry will never really fall off, and he will always be the face of that team. But honestly, he's 37, right? So age is the team's biggest factor here. And off the bench, you got Brandon Podziemski, who I think is a solid sixth man. But after this trade was made, the Warriors bench was heavily depleted, because in order to get a guy like Jimmy Butler, you got to give up a lot of pieces. Even though Jimmy Butler's trade value was at an all-time low, it was still going to cost you an arm and a leg. And with the desperation factor that the Warriors had, aka Father Time, on their ass, they very clearly overpaid. But that's just because they had to. Steph Curry is going out and putting up 22 points a night, 4 assists, 4 rebounds while shooting 43% from the field. He's doing all of this while being an absolutely old man. His back is getting tired. He's had to carry the organization for almost 2 decades at this point. So you can see why Jimmy Butler is brought onto the team to unlift some of that heavy load that Steph Curry has just been taking day in and day out. Nothing but heavy loads for Steph Curry. So, of course, Jimmy Butler comes along, and these two guys are two of the most clutch players in NBA history. Hell, when the Warriors played the Lakers the other day, they got the game down to the wire, and that was without Jimmy Butler. So, with Jimmy Butler on this team, it does make them more exciting again, but truthfully, they're still not contenders. And the pick that they gave up in order to acquire Jimmy Butler is protected for now, but there are protections on it until about 2026, I believe, and if those don't convey to the Heat then there's a chance that the Heat end up with their 2027 unprotected pick from the Golden State Warriors, and by then, the Warriors aren't going to be any good, I promise you, because not every team lands a Luka that can save the franchise. So the Heat might have absolutely bodied the Warriors here, I'm just saying. I think at the end of the day, it all just comes down to how Jimmy Butler tries to play, because he can go out there and prove to Pat Riley he can go and win in spite of the fact that he's old and is on a bit of a decline. Hell, his hatred for the Miami Heat might just be enough to fuel him over the edge and get this team into a deep playoff run. It all really falls on Jimmy Butler's shoulders, along with how he gets with the rest of the locker room, because Jimmy Butler, if there's one thing he's known for, it's ruining a team's chemistry, and there are going to be practices where Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green are fighting. That's just guaranteed. They both have very loud and strong personalities that have clashed with other stars in the past. I mean, Draymond Green smacked Jordan Poole, ran Kevin Durant out of Golden State, and Jimmy Butler beefed with about 4 organizations in his career. So as long as Draymond and Jimmy can get along, then they won't have to worry about off-the-court issues and just on-the-court issues. But anyway, I think I've covered everything I've wanted to surrounding the Jimmy Butler trade. Who won? Really, it was the Miami Heat at the top. After that, of course, you got the Golden State Warriors down here. Really just depends on how their stars play. And then the Utah Jazz, the Raptors, the Pistons, we're all just kind of having fun in this deal like a bottom. But like I said, I'll catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces.